And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Welcome to Guerilla Roundup on day 5. Can't believe I'm saying that. Day 5 of the third test in Adelaide. The test match is, of course, over. And I'm very pleased to have William Munt with me to discuss today and indeed the tests as a whole. Welcome, William.
Right. Thank you very much.
So we started off today with England facing an unlikely chase, but I think it's fair to say that Lady Luck put in an appearance. Could you just briefly go through where we started, where we ended today, William?
Yeah, sure. So we started today with Will Jacks and Jamie Smith at the crease for England. Their partnership was in the relatively early stages at the start of the day. And after, I suppose, a relatively cautious start early on, they kind of started to move through the gears. Jamie Smith in particular, he reached his first 50 in Australia and only his second half century outside of England. And at one stage, he kind of looked to be putting England into a decent or a more decent position than they've been in. However, after moving past 50, he played a rash shot, really, and was dismissed by Mitchell Starc. And from that point on, England were always up against it. Because obviously, that ended a 91-run partnership between Jacks and Smith. And ultimately, I think the final nail in the coffin was when Will Jacks was dismissed by another outstanding catch from Labuschagne off Starc. And despite Bryden Cast ending up in 39 not out, it was always going to be too much for the England lower order in the end, with Starc removing Archer and then Labuschagne catching tongue off of Boland at slip for the final wicket. So England ultimately ended up on 352, 82 runs short of Australia's target.
Indeed. So it was a day that wasn't without its own dramas. We started off with a forecast suggesting there may be some rain this morning, but we started on time with, I think we had Lyon opening the bowling, did we not, William?
Yes. Yep.
And at that stage, I think there were 18 overs to go until Australia was able to take the new ball. There was a sense of deja vu because this is where they'd started on day 2, looking to work through until they got access to the new ball. Sorry, day 3, I think it was. What was your feeling at that time?
I think it was kind of clear that they were kind of waiting for the new ball. I think often that kind of has happened quite a lot in this series at times, with teams obviously wanting to use the new ball to their advantage. So I think they were clearly kind of using Cameron Green as, I guess, like a buffer, really. And they were waiting for that new ball. I think Lyon maybe would have bowled anyway, because obviously the pitch was turning a bit and he'd obviously taken 3 quick wickets late on day 4. But yeah, I think they were obviously trying to use Cameron Green and a bit of the short ball ploy up until they could get to the new ball, which I suppose ultimately is what happened.
Yes, indeed. From an Australian point of view, I was getting nervous then because I'm not good at long-term strategies. I like to see people attack, attack, attack.
Yeah.
And I just felt, oh God, they're making it too easy, because in that period up until the new ball, England must have added, I don't know, new ball taken it. I can't remember what the score was precisely, but they must have added 50 odd runs in that period. And it did make me nervous. I thought, oh, yeah, are they really going to be able to do this? And of course, the other thing that happened before the new ball was taken seemed like a fairly innocuous fielding event for Nathan Lyon. Tell us what happened there.
Yeah, so Cameron Green's shorter delivery was pulled by Jamie Smith down to long leg. And yeah, like you say, Nathan Lyon put in a good dive, one-handed pickup. And at the time, I just thought it's a great bit of fielding. But after kind of throwing the ball in and standing up, he immediately looked to be quite ginger on his feet, feeling his hamstring, and then went off straight away. So Travis Head came on to then bowl the next over, which would have been Nathan Lyon's over. And Lyon went pretty quickly, left the ground to have a medical evaluation, and it was confirmed they'd picked up a hamstring injury and they'd played no further part in this test. And I suppose looking at it, it's probably unlikely you think they'll play much or any further past in this series.
I think that's almost certainly correct. Yeah. I mean, why would you put him at risk when
Yeah,
the Ashes is already determined?
agreed. Yeah.
Uh, so we came to the new ball, and for a while it looked okay. Uh, then in the what was it? I think it was the 83rd over. Was
Yes.
Jamie Smith had a couple of really nice shots actually. He hit seven fours and two sixes, uh, but it just went one too many, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely so. And I think it's so frustrating because the boundaries he'd been picking up were just good cricket shots. Like he wasn't slogging. He was, I suppose, playing each ball on its merit, or I suppose just playing the shots that went with the balls. As in Stark would kind of drift into his pad, so he clipped it, and then he'd be too full and he could just drive him. But that was just a hoik. It wasn't trying to use the pace on the ball, or I suppose play the ball back where it came from. It was just the ball was coming across him, and he just went for a hoik. And it was one of those like he'd looked in such control, and I think those are the shots that I find the most frustrating. I think almost like if you get out to a good ball, that's fine. And even if I suppose I don't know if like you try and clip a ball that's there to be clipped and you get caught at square leg, obviously it's annoying, but the ball was there for that shot, but it just was not there. Like the length wasn't there, and obviously the line with him coming across the right hander, and he just tried to hoik him over. I suppose long on. Really, it was just a really poor shot. In all honesty.
It was a poor shot, and I know a lot of people sort of were really angry with him. But the truth is that he'd reached 60, he'd batted pretty well. It was coming in at number seven, so it's actually not a poor performance. It was his
Oh no, yeah,
best innings of the series without a doubt. Um,
yes,
and
yeah,
and most of it was done with discipline. I would have to say there was no sign of what might be called baseball today or yesterday
no,
in England's play, and they've made 352 in the fourth innings. That's not a bad deal.
no, yeah,
So then, once he was gone, we're left with Will Jacks still there, um, and of course he was joined by Brydon Cast, and between them they looked a possibility to do a bit more.
yeah. I think, yeah, you're right. They kind of initially Cast looked quite nervy and quite, I suppose, skittish, really. But then he kind of did ease into it, and I think, yeah, whilst Jax was there was always that kind of more genuine hope. I think you always kind of thought that there was more of a chance with both of them there, and especially when they got under 100 to win with still 3 wickets remaining. But I think when Jax fell, that was kind of really like the final nail in the coffin. And that I think was when we realised that Australia were going to retain the Ashes today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was just looking at the scorecard. England lost the first 6 wickets for 194. The last 4 wickets put on 158. I think that's a pretty good effort in the
Yeah,
circumstances. Jofra Archer was caught on the boundary off a short ball from Stark that he tried to cut and went straight to Weatherall, which was possibly unlucky. And of course,
yeah.
Josh Tongue was cleaned up by Boland, just a nick to Labuschagne at slip. Labuschagne, by the way, took 4 catches in this innings. He may not have done too well with the bat, but he certainly did well at slip, didn't he?
Oh yes, definitely. I think he really stepped up, I suppose, in the absence of Steve Smith. And actually thinking about, I suppose 2 of them were regulation, but 2 of them were unbelievable catches as well. I think, especially with the Will Jacks one, he
Yes.
ultimately drove at a ball that wasn't there to drive, but it was an unbelievable one-handed diving catch from Labuschagne, diving across care reaction. I suppose for Jacks, it was kind of a sense of a similar dismissal to Brisbane, when in the second innings he was on 41 at the time and edged one that Smith caught just above the turf with the dive. And similar again here. This one was more of a push at a ball that he didn't need to drive at, but it was still a very impressive catch. And I suppose that maiden test-off century just evaded him again. But yeah, Labuschagne was very impressive in the field. And I suppose Australia in general have been really. They've, I suppose, not only taken most of the regulation catches, but they've also taken some of the lower percentage chances that England haven't in this series.
Yeah, apart from Will Jacks,
Yeah,
that catch from Smith was a standout.
yeah.
Looking at the Australian bowling figures, Stark, Cummings, Lyon, 3 wickets each, one to Boland. That's a fucking hard attack to overcome. They're just relentless, aren't they?
I think so. And I think that's kind of, I think, especially with Cummins coming back this week, I think you kind of just realise that I think that almost is where the biggest difference is. I think obviously so much is spoken about the England batting, but I think the biggest difference is in the bowling. I just think that Australia's attack is far superior to England. They're more consistent and they've got more out of this wicket. And also, obviously, there's that element of them knowing a bit more about how to bowl in Australia. But yeah, I think Cummins has been pretty relentless in this test and he's got some nice movement. And I think Boland, I know he only took one wicket, but him with Carey standing up is just so hard to face because you can't get out to him.
Yeah.
And he's one of those bowlers, he puts it on a spot every time and gets just enough movement. So he's been nigh on unplayable at times. And then Stark, I think, as you've kind of mentioned on commentary, is kind of in the form of his life, really.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I noticed that Alex Carey has been named as player of the match.
Yeah.
And I think that's deserved. That century in the first innings was so crucial. I know Travis Head's innings of 170 was pretty fantastic as well. But to add his wicket keeping, it didn't necessarily have to take catches for his wicket keeping to count, but had a great stumping and as well as a couple of catches. In fact, he took several catches in the first innings, didn't he? He took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the first innings. So, yeah, I think he deserved a man of the match award, to be honest. I think Head should be satisfied with the fact that they will definitely put a statue up for him at the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah.
So your feeling as an Englishman who's had to suffer long and hard about this test match, there was something different, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think overall there's a bit more positivity, like you say, but it's kind of framed against the fact that why couldn't they have done this earlier? For me,
Yes.
I think is the biggest kind of feeling. It's like I come away obviously disappointed that they've lost the Ashes, but I don't think there's too much to complain about from the performance. I think they showed that fight and grit that we've wanted to see, and ultimately they're outplayed by the better team. But it's just that kind of, I suppose, the feeling of what might have been if we'd
Yes.
kind of turned up in Perth with this attitude and put in a performance like this. I'd have thought, okay, maybe we can get back into the series. And now even I think I do feel a bit better as well into the back end of the series, because before I thought if we lose 3-0, it's almost like, well, the Ashes are done before the Boxing Day test, which is so frustrating. It still is, but I'm maybe hopeful that maybe they can pick up a win and be a bit more competitive in the last two tests as well.
Indeed. Yeah, I think the truth is that if you want to pick when the Ashes were lost, it was day 2 in Perth.
Yeah.
I think from then on, they were just pushing shit uphill inevitably.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to Melbourne on Boxing Day. What do you see, to start with, what are England likely to do you think, from here?
I think Ollie Pope could miss out. I think this did kind of have that feeling of almost his last chance. And I think the shots in the first innings, and then I suppose the fact he didn't get many runs in the second innings, only 17, means that could be time up for him. And initially I was obviously kind of thinking along the lines of maybe Bethel. But now, having, I suppose, kind of seen this test match, I do think Will Jacks could maybe be pushed up to number 3. I think he's kind of shown enough grit and determination, and I suppose technique, really, that I do think that they wouldn't be the worst plan to maybe try him, because I do obviously kind of feel that he's not a good enough spinner, really, to be a spin bowling all-rounder, I don't think. So I think kind of coming in at 7, obviously, I don't think really is kind of his place if he's to have a future in the England Test team. That's probably a bit low to be a specialist batter. So I wonder if maybe they could try Jacks at 3.
Number 3 is very demanding. What about Stokes at 3?
I do think so, but I just think with everything else, captaincy, and I think he's probably capable, but with the captaincy and the bowling, I do think it may kind of become a bit much. So I suppose ultimately, I wouldn't say I think Jacks is the long-term solution at number 3. So I suppose ultimately it's him or Bethel. And obviously it's whether or not you think that, I suppose maybe then, if you think from that point of view, maybe it would make more sense to play Bethel if England think is the long-term option. So I think ultimately, I think there'll be a change. It's just who they opt for.
Yeah.
And then I suppose,
well, if they take Pope out and move Jacks up to 3, who do they then bring in?
I think, yeah, obviously that's the question. And I suppose it kind of depends whether in that instance, would they want to maybe bring in the spin of Bashir? Would they want to kind of have
I'd
more
love
of a
to see them
spinner?
do that. I mean, apart from anything else, I think he's been treated really poorly. And
Yeah.
I think he deserves the right to be able to play a test
Yeah.
and to prove something. I heard, I think it was maybe an Adam Gilchrist saying he was bowling in the nets yesterday, and he was looking really good.
Yeah.
And give the lad a chance. To have brought him out here on the promise that he's our number one spinner and then not playing for three tests, I think that's appalling. I think at the very least they should have had him in this team. Uh,
Yeah.
in Adelaide, you need a spinner, and do you believe in him or not? That's the question.
Yeah. I do agree. I think also well, definitely, I think it's been mismanaged, like you said, and I think yeah, it's poor from England. But I think obviously I heard Ben Stokes talking, and I think he said obviously they still do view him as their number one spinner, but how poorly they'd batted, they felt the option was Jacks. So I think obviously he has been let down by England, but also his team haven't really, I suppose, the way England have played, they felt they needed the extra batter, and so that's kind of where I feel like ultimately it's kind of been, I wouldn't say proven to be right, but the fact that the way Jax has played, I think I suppose it's kind of almost not been, it doesn't look as bad as it could have been. But
Yeah.
again, obviously the fact that Jax isn't a frontline spinner obviously is, and obviously I suppose psychologically for Bashir as well, the impact that could have.
Yes, yeah, that's true. But the fast bowling attack, do you leave it as is, or do you
I guess, I
give
think
someone a rest?
I think if Archer feels able, I think I'd play him again. But it's whether you think three tests in a row is too much. I think, and then maybe I think Bryden Cast maybe for Atkinson just go for a straight swap maybe. Because I think obviously
Yeah.
Cast has played the first three. He's not been amazing, I don't think, and I think especially at times in this one, it felt like he kind of really did struggle. So
Well,
I think yeah.
amazingly though, he is England's leading
Well, yes,
excuse me.
I had seen that stat. Yes, I think that's one of those, I suppose, kind of surprising stats in terms of.
It's
I don't think he's been anywhere near the best bowler, but so I
it's
think,
got 14 wickets at 29.28. There you go.
yeah, yes, so yeah, he has picked up the wickets, but I think yeah, definitely maybe change him, and then like yeah, we said maybe see how Archer's
I'd
feeling.
I'd be surprised for them not to rest Archer after playing three consecutive tests, to be
Yeah,
honest. I mean, you
yeah,
remember all the criticism about bowling him into the ground in New Zealand all those years ago.
yeah, yes, I do. Yeah,
Uh, I think you've got to treasure your gems, and there is
mm,
no doubt at all that Archer is the best prospect for England going forward.
yeah,
As far as Australia is concerned, they're obviously going to be without Lyon, but Smith will be
yeah,
back. What
yeah.
what do you see is likely to happen there?
Well, I think it's interesting because obviously from this test, Inglis obviously you'd look at as being the one to go. I suppose it kind of just I think that would probably be the smartest move, maybe given what's happened in this test. And obviously it just kind of depends how they reshuffle that lineup.
Yes.
Um Obviously I've kind of still felt that from an England point of view, I still feel I'd fear Travis Head coming in at number five more, but the way he's opened, I think that is clearly the way they'll go. So I think obviously they'd kind of just drop down Kawaja to four here, and I suppose it's kind of just how they would juggle that with if you have Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith, and this Kawaja all kind of in that same space. But I do think it's probably most likely that England will be the one to miss out.
I think you're right there. Um, and I think it'll be tough on Kawaja to miss out. I
Yeah,
really think, though, that from Australia's point of view, they need to give some other openers a try, given that Kawaja is going to be going at the end of the series
yeah,
without any doubt. And I think the person who's put his hand up the strongest is actually Matt Renshaw
yeah,
from Queensland. Somehow or other, I think they need to find a space for him to play.
yeah,
As far as the spinners are concerned, I think there's actually a potential blessing in Lyon not being able to play because it gives
yeah,
Australia the chance to try someone else. Uh, a guy who hasn't played yet for Australia is Rocky Uccelli from Western
yeah,
Australia, who's done
yeah,
extraordinarily well in the Shield. I know there are others like Murphy and Kuhneman around, but I'd like to see Rocky given a go, just
yeah.
to see how he travels. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do. There's a real opportunity here. I know the Australian team are desperate to try and make it a 5-0 series, but I
Yeah.
think the selectors need to look further ahead and say we need to use this opportunity to bring some
Yeah.
new blood into the team.
Yes,
So
I think yeah, there's definitely kind of scope for that, I think. And like you say, I think obviously Australia wants to make it 5-0. England won't want to lose 5-0. But also it's kind of interesting to kind of see like what changes both teams make and obviously how they're looking to the future, I suppose, almost from this.
yes, yes, indeed. Uh, so from your point of view, what was the standout moment of cricket today?
Or from today, probably have to go with the Labuschagne catch. I think
Yeah,
because that was, I think, the moment where the test was ultimately. I think obviously England were probably still up against it, but I think that was a moment where the test was fully sort of sealed off for Australia. So I'll
yes.
probably have to go with that, the moment and the catch itself. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. Um, and as far as the Guerilla performance of today, I don't think we can go past the bear again because
yeah,
he dragged himself from his sick bed because we were short in the studio to come and get us on air.
yeah,
Although he did admit to me that he had recovered enough for his wife to insist that he drive her to Blue Water Shopping Centre yesterday. So he clearly wasn't on his deathbed as such. And
yes,
I'm sure rather be at Gorilla Towers than at Blue Water Shopping Centre, which is his
yeah,
nemesis, I think. So
yes, yeah,
yeah, props to the
yeah,
bear. Props also to Tony Bishop, who has had to juggle the rotors for this
yeah,
and previous tests. Fantastic job.
yeah.
And props to you, young fellas, getting up in the
No,
middle of the night after a big night out. It's hard work, I know.
yes, thank you. Yes,
So thank you very much for being with us, William, and I look
no
forward to
problem.
catching up with you in the Boxing Day test match.
Yes, yep.
We'll see you then. Bye bye.
See you then. Bye.
There's the bear in there, and Hendo as well. There are jingles they play, and swear words to yell. But come